Discussions between the makers of the extremely popular AI model Claude, Anthropic, and the U.S. Department of War, once less accurately called the Department of Defense, have broken down completely now, with the Pentagon now designating the company a supply chain risk. Why? Because this guy, War Secretary Pete Hegseth, and his friends at the Pentagon love Claude. In fact, allegedly, Claude was involved in some way in the objectively successful U.S. military operation in Venezuela that yoinked Nicolas Maduro out of his bedroom to face trial in New York. In truth, they can't get enough of Claude. Claude is being used throughout the Pentagon and is broadly emerging across the AI space as the AI model to beat when it comes to tasks like software development, mathematics, a bunch of super science stuff that, frankly, I'm not qualified to talk about. The U.S. Department of making defense contractors that Congress members are heavily financially invested in rich wants more. They want a lot more. So what is, in fact, their problem? Why did they label Anthropic a supply chain risk, a designation typically reserved only for companies that supply hostile foreign powers? Well, it's because Anthropic was asking for two tiny little guardrails that the government is very mad about. This is Cognitive Security. I'm Rob Sussman. And just to rip the Band-Aid totally off, those guardrails are: 1. The government is not allowed to use Claude in automated weapons that can be used without any human oversight, and they can't use it for mass surveillance of the American people. That's the second one. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, that's why the government is so upset. So upset, in fact, that the President of the United States wrote a boomer post on Truth Social screaming at them in all caps. But wait, guys. It's cool. The Pentagon says they don't actually want to do that, and they don't have plans to. We're not going to put Claude into autonomous weapons or link it into a mass surveillance network. Of course not. But also, if you don't let us, you're a supply chain risk, and we're going to try to damage your business forever and imply you're a danger to the United States. Now, the Pentagon says they want the guardrails to simply be whatever use is legal. Defined, of course, by them and what they believe is legal. Like, the invasion of Iraq, vaporizing Yemeni school children, mowing down innocent civilians in helicopters, wiping out Afghan families in drone strikes, double tapping a suspected cartel boat whose crew is already drowning, selling weapons to insurgents groups that a decade later become terrorists we have to bomb. Honestly, I could go on for quite some time, but you get the point. They're completely full of it. It's completely obvious. The entire point is that the Department of Violence wants to do whatever it wants and believes it should always get to do whatever it wants because it has the bigger guns. Now, I am extremely skeptical of Claude. Not only has Anthropic perhaps finally created the AI model that's going to totally wipe out the white-collar workforce forever, but Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, flirts with language suggesting that Claude is self-aware. All that said, he finds himself in a really strange position right now, and one that has occurred very few times in history. He finds himself in the right place, at the right time, and doing the right thing. It's him who's insisting that the guardrails around autonomous weapons and mass surveillance continue to exist. It's him who currently holds the extremely rare position of leverage against the U.S. government. Now, I am an American, if that wasn't obvious. And if you haven't been able to guess my general and lifelong opinion of the U.S. Department of murdering people, hopefully it's this sentence that brings that across. But I'm also a person who likes to look at the big picture, and it, of course, is not particularly difficult to see what exactly is going on here. Loath as I am to defend the Pentagon, and don't get me wrong, I'm not. There's a pretty obvious reason why they're behaving this way, and it isn't just that they're bloodthirsty neocons with a god complex drunk utterly on their own power. They are. It's just that they're not the only ones. Yes, America's chief geopolitical rival, the only other undisputed superpower on Earth, and the place that makes all of the world's plastic crap and cell phones, the People's Republic of China. An authoritarian state where you don't have to worry about them building an extremely intrusive mass surveillance apparatus because they already built it 20 years ago. You don't have to worry about them embedding artificial intelligence in weapons because it isn't even going to be something that's put up for discussion. China is simply going to do it, and nobody is going to be asked. They're going to do it at all costs. They're going to do it unapologetically, completely unscrupulously, and worse, they're actually stealing training data from Claude in order to do it. Now, this is something that only the most delusional Wu-Mao would ever argue against. China does stuff like this all the time, and they have since Richard Nixon. Of course, they want to overlay AI onto their existing mass surveillance network. Of course, they want to put AI into autonomous weapons. That way they can gain a foothold over their geopolitical rival, the United States, in one of the few places that they're down, that is to say, military technology. It's a way that they can hedge against the country's incoming demographic collapse, a result of the 36-year-long one-child policy. And if they could, I don't know, take Taiwan, their single greatest military goal, with minimal human effort and expenditure, obviously they're going to do that. Now, put yourself in the shoes of a policymaker at the U.S. Department of War Crimes. No, the other one. There we go. If you're calling the shots, and you're watching as your chief strategic rival almost certainly is using AI in ways completely unhindered by any law or imagination, are you going to say no? No, we can't do that. No, we have to lose this arms race and let China build an army of DeepSeek-powered killbots that can be orbitally inserted directly into the home of every person who has ever said Tiananmen Square happened. No, you can't say that. You have to build an army of War-Clawed-powered orbital insertion drones that can kill everybody who's ever been critical of Israel. And this is the actual core of the AI problem. It's another arms race. And it isn't as though we haven't seen arms races in recent memory. Obviously, we had a Cold War with the Soviet Union for a good portion of the 21st century, in which we stockpiled enough nukes together to end the entire world multiple times over. But this is actually different. It's worse. Nukes take incredible scientific know-how and nation-state level resources in order to assemble and use them. And while nuclear energy was used in the private sector, Claude is in your phone. ChatGPT is on your boss's computer. Grok is in your Pornhub search results. Google Copilot is running businesses. This technology is growing, expanding, improving, and becoming more and more ubiquitous by the day, completely divorced from any kind of military context or military oversight. Imagine if any schlub with enough effort could make a nuke in their basement and deploy it. That's kind of like what this is like, but it's actually worse. Now, I don't have a solution to this. What are we supposed to do? Ask the Chinese, hey, can you guys please stop? We're going to tell Pete Hegseth no? That's fine. All of the other AI companies have already complied with his request. It's only a matter of time before the U.S. government is going to deploy exactly what it wants anyway. I don't think there's anything we can do here. I think we're simply going to have to let this play out. Now, that doesn't mean we have to give in to nihilistic despair. You can get through it. You. But you have to be ready. You have to be prepared. You have to take steps, starting now, to prepare yourself for a future in which this could wind up going very, very wrong. This is Cognitive Security. I'm Rob Sussman. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.